Welcome back to the deep dive. And you've really handed us, well, a mountain of sources today.
A mountain is a good word for it.
We have everything here. I mean, from the really microscopic stuff like therapeutic peptides and gut bacteria, all the way up to these, huge concepts like healing trauma and completely shifting your identity.
Yeah, this isn't just a simple checklist of things to do.
No.
It feels more like a blueprint, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
A blueprint for how to design a life for, I don't know, peak vitality and longevity.
That's it, exactly.
Yeah.
A blueprint. So what's our mission with this deep dive? How are we going to tackle all this?
I think our mission has to be holistic. I mean, that's the only way. We're trying to connect the dots, bridge that gap that people always create between the mind and the body.
Right.
We're going to take these super specific physical things like your ApoB levels or the lining of your gut and show you how they directly connect to and are affected by these big mental strategies.
Like reframing anxiety.
Exactly. Or using an identity shift to make health changes that actually stick. We're looking for the high leverage stuff, the small inputs that give you these massive clinically backed results.
Okay, I like that. High leverage. And we have a structure, a path through this mountain. We're starting with the physical health foundation first. So a really deep look at diet, metabolism, the gut. Then we'll get into training, recovery, those longevity markers, and only then do we move into the mental health toolkit, identity, trauma, sleep, all of that.
Building from the ground up.
Okay, let's unpack this. And we're starting at the absolute core where everything seems to begin these days, the gut.
It has to be the gut.
Yeah.
It really is the foundational layer for, well, your systemic health. If your gut barrier is compromised,
Leaky.
right, leaky gut, then everything else you're trying to do, dialing in your protein, perfecting your workouts, even taking expensive supplements, it's all happening through this broken, inefficient system.
So you're just not absorbing things properly.
Not at all. And the sources pointed to two really powerful and accessible interventions. The first one is something that's been around forever, apple cider vinegar.
Yeah.
ACV.
Right. ACV, it's one of those old folk remedies that science is finally catching up to and explaining why it works.
Exactly. We now have the mechanism. The core idea is that drinking ACV can actively change your gut microbiome. And the specific goal, the thing we're really aiming for, is to increase a beneficial bacteria called Akkermansia.
Akkermansia mucinifila.
That's the one. And it is an absolute rock star in the gut. Its name, mucinifila, it literally means mucus-loving.
Okay.
It lives in the mucus layer of your colon and basically helps to reinforce that intestinal lining. When you have lots of Akkermansia, your gut barrier is just stronger, it's more resilient. And Dr. Ben Bickman, he cited a specific study on this.
And the results weren't just a small tweak, they were pretty staggering.
Oh, they were huge. The data showed that ACD supplementation reduced weight gain by over 26%.
26%.
Yeah. I mean, think about that. For a simple non-drug intervention, that kind of reduction points to a really powerful metabolic reset.
And it wasn't just weight, was it?
No. They also saw a decrease in liver injury markers. And that suggests that by improving the gut barrier with something as simple as ACV, you reduce that chronic systemic inflammation that puts so much stress on the liver.
It's a chain reaction, all starting with a shift in one type of bacteria.
Incredible.
So speaking of that compromised barrier, that leaky gut, what do we do about it? I mean, how do we actively reverse that? The sources were pretty specific about spore-based probiotics.
Yes, specifically Bacillus sublicin. And this is where we need to slow down and look at the actual clinical data, not just feelings.
Right.
Leaky gut is a real, measurable thing. It's defined by high levels of circulating endotoxins, specifically something called LPS in your blood, especially after you eat.
And LPS is? What is that exactly?
It's basically fragments of dead bacteria. And when your gut lining is weak, these little toxic bits leak out into your bloodstream and cause this low-grade chronic inflammation all over your body.
Okay, so LPS is the marker. How good was this specific probiotic at reducing it?
The trial was, was profound. In just 30 days, it reduced those post-meal endotoxin levels by 42%.
Wow, 42% in a month.
Think about that. That's a nearly 50% reversal of toxin leakage in 30 days. It's not trivial. It shows that these spore-based bacteria are like a repair crew for your gut, patching up the holes.
So we're bringing in the repair crew. But what about stopping the attack in the first place? The sources had this great but kind of terrifying name for the main culprits, the hateful 8 oils.
That's right. And the core tip here is just strict avoidance. We're talking about the big industrial seed oils, soybean, corn, canola, cottonseed, All of them.
Rapeseed, sunflower.
All of them. They're all highly processed, and this is the key. They are incredibly high in omega-6 fatty acids.
We hear inflammatory all the time, but let's get into the weeds. How do they actually damage the gut barrier?
It's not just a vague inflammatory response. It's actually a structural problem. These fats they're chemically unstable. And when you eat a lot of them, your body literally builds them into your cell membrane.
All your cell membranes, including your gut cells.
Every single one.
Yeah.
And because they're so unstable, they're really susceptible to damage and oxidation. So you're essentially building a weaker, more fragile, more permeable wall for your gut. You're loosening the seals.
So you're literally constructing a leaky gut from the inside out.
You've got it. And Dr. Bickman's research backed this up perfectly. Mice that were fed high omega-6 diets, they developed gut issues and colitis. But here's the kicker.
Okay.
Mice that were engineered to produce their own omega-3s were protected from this.
Huh.
That shows it's the balance of these fats that is a direct lever on the physical strength of your gut.
So if we're throwing out the hateful eight, what should we be using instead? What are the good guys here?
You want to stick to stable fats. Things high in monounsaturated or saturated fats. So, high quality olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, ghee. Those are all much more stable and won't compromise your cell membranes.
Okay, that's clear. Avoid the hateful eight, build a better wall. So let's move from the gut lining to the building blocks of the body itself. Protein. This seems to be foundational, especially for fighting sarcopenia.
Yeah, that age-related muscle loss. And the sources suggest we need to be really aggressive with our protein intake. The core tip is aiming for 0.7 to 1 gram of protein per pound of your target body weight.
Target body weight. That's a really important distinction, isn't it?
It's crucial. We're not talking about the bare minimum to avoid a deficiency disease. We're talking about the optimal amount for building and preserving muscle, for strength, for longevity.
And J.J. Virgin had an important point about where that protein comes from, especially for plant-based eaters.
She did. I mean, the reality is that animal protein just has a better profile of essential amino acids, especially leucine, which is the main trigger for building muscle.
So if you're only eating plants,
You have to be much more strategic. You need to aim for the higher end of that range, closer to that 1 gram per pound, to compensate. And you have to be really diligent about combining different plant proteins to get that complete amino acid profile.
the sources also mentioned a kind of synergy, right, between protein and other things.
Yeah, this is a great high leverage tip. A study on women over 64 found that when they combined strength training with fish oil supplements, they had significantly greater strength gains than the group that only did the training.
So the fish oil amplifies the effect of the protein in the workout.
It seems to. The thinking is that the anti-inflammatory properties of the fish oil reduce recovery time and just help the muscles repair and adapt better. It's a classic 1 + 1 = 3 situation.
Less inflammation means better adaptation. It makes perfect sense. Okay, next pillar, fiber. The sources frame this as way more than just a digestive aid. They called it a longevity intervention.
It's absolutely longevity medicine.
Yeah.
And the goals are high, at least 30 grams a day for women, 40 for men. And the reason for this comes from this massive review in The Lancet. They looked at 185 different studies.
A huge data set. And
Yeah.
what was the big takeaway?
The conclusion was that high fiber intake is linked to a 15 to 30% lower all-cause mortality.
Let me stop you there. 15 to 30%. That's like a powerful drug.
It has a drug-like effect just from eating more plants. And it's because it does so many things. It helps control your blood sugar and insulin. It binds to excess cholesterol.
And it feeds the gut bacteria we were just talking about.
Exactly. It feeds your good gut bugs. And they produce these amazing compounds called short-chain fatty acids like butyrate. And butyrate is powerfully anti-inflammatory. It protects you against stroke, diabetes, all the things the Lancet review confirmed.
Amazing. Okay, so now for a more nuanced topic, hormonal shifts. Dr. Mindy Pelz had some really specific advice for postmenopausal women and fasting.
Yeah, this is an area where you really have to tailor your approach. The main idea is that postmenopausal women should be using fasting specifically to encourage their bodies to use ketones.
Why ketones specifically?
Because after menopause, when estrogen drops, the brain becomes less efficient at using glucose for fuel. Just doesn't take it up as well. Ketones, on the other hand, become this preferred, cleaner, more efficient fuel source for the brain.
So fasting isn't just about cutting calories, it's about shifting the brain's fuel source to something better.
Precisely. And she shared this really fascinating kind of counterintuitive detail about how to break the fast for the best results.
This was the fat bomb idea.
The fat bomb, yeah. So she referenced the study. One group fasted for 15 hours. The second group fasted for 15 hours. And then for 2 more hours, they ate a small, high-fat snack with 0 protein or carbs. A fat bomb.
And the fat bomb group actually did better. That doesn't seem right.
They had better metabolic markers. The theory is that because the fat bomb has no protein or carbs, it doesn't spike your insulin. So your body stays in that fat-burning, ketone-producing state for a couple of extra hours, which enhances your metabolic flexibility. It's like a training session for your metabolism.
A way to extend the benefits of the fast. That's a great hack.
Yeah.
And all of this leads to this bigger idea of food as medicine, especially for reversing chronic disease.
Yeah, and the key tip is just radical elimination. Get rid of sugar, starch, and all processed foods. And Dr. Mark Hyman shared a patient story that it drives this point home like nothing else.
This was the 66-year-old woman.
Yes. She came to him with severe heart failure and type 2 diabetes. She was on a lot of insulin. I mean, this is a person in a very serious, life-threatening situation.
Not someone just trying to lose 10 pounds.
Exactly. And the reversal it was shockingly fast. Within 3 days of changing her diet, just eating whole foods, no sugar, no starch, she was completely off her insulin.
3 days.
3 days. And the heart failure, which most doctors would call irreversible.
Yeah.
Within 3 months, it had completely reversed. It shows you how much of that condition was being driven by inflammation and metabolic stress from her diet. Over the year, she lost 116 pounds.
That story is it's undeniable proof.
It is. It shows that food isn't just fuel. It can be the most powerful medicine we have.
Okay, so we've built that metabolic foundation. Now let's talk about how we move the body. And the first point here really pushes back against that more is better gym culture, this idea of the breakdown recovery trap.
This is such a critical mindset shift. So many people who are really dedicated fall into this trap of thinking they need to hammer their body every single day to see results.
Right, no days off.
Yeah. And the high leverage tip here for strength training is to actually reduce your frequency to just 1 or 2 really high quality sessions a week. The focus has to be on adaptation, not just constant recovery.
But wait a second. If someone is used to training 4 or 5 times a week, and you tell them to drop to 2, aren't they going to be terrified of losing their gains? How does less work lead to better results?
It's because the magic doesn't happen in the gym. The body only gets stronger and leaner during the adaptation phase, which is rest. If you're training hard 5-6 days a week, you're always in a state of repair. You're never giving your body the chance to actually heal and overcompensate, to get stronger.
You're just constantly breaking it down.
You're just breaking it down. You're keeping your cortisol high. You're inflamed. And Sal DiStefano saw this in his clients all the time.
What was his observation?
He saw that women who were training constantly, 5+ days a week, would hit these brutal plateaus. But when he convinced them to cut back to just 2 intense sessions a week, they finally moved into that adaptation phase and boom, they got stronger and leaner.
Because the quality and the timing of the rest became the most important factor.
Far more important than the volume.
That's a huge shift. Speaking of strategic timing, let's talk about this framework from Dr. Peter Attia, the centenarian decathlon. I love this idea.
It's brilliant, isn't it? It completely reframes why we exercise. The core idea is to train today for the specific physical tasks you want to be able to do when you're 90 or 100 years old.
So it's not about how you look on the beach this summer.
No. It's about being able to get up off the floor without using your hands when you're 95. And he uses this concept he calls backcasting to figure out how to do it.
Backcasting, so working backwards from the goal.
Exactly. You define the goal, say carrying a 30-pound grandchild up the stairs at age 90. Then you calculate how much strength and aerobic capacity you're likely to lose per decade due to aging.
Right.
Which means you have to figure out how strong you need to be today in your 40s or 50s to build up enough of a buffer to still be able to do that task in your 90s.
So today's deadlift isn't for today. It's an investment in your 90-year-old self's independence.
That's exactly what it is. It's building a reserve against decline.
I love that. Okay, now for a really specific, almost strange tip about cellular energy, mitochondrial optimization via cumulative breath.
Yeah, this comes from the idea that our mitochondria, little cellular power plants, they respond directly to signals of oxygen demand. And the tip is super precise.
What is it?
You need to make sure you are out of breath for at least 1 cumulative hour every single day.
An hour every day. That sounds like a lot.
It's cumulative, but yes, it's a lot. That signal of being out of breath is what tells your mitochondria that they need to get better and more efficient at processing oxygen. That's the very definition of metabolic fitness.
And the story about Dr. Andrew Huberman's friend, the former Navy SEAL, that just shows the dedication this takes.
Oh, it's incredible. This guy is in his 60s and in peak physical condition because he religiously hits this 1-hour threshold every day if he's stuck in a hotel room or on a plane.
He'll just start doing burpees in the aisle.
I mean, pretty much.
Yeah.
He'll do high-intensity bodyweight circuits, whatever it takes to accumulate that hour of hard breathing.
Yeah.
It's a testament to the idea that the consistent signal to the mitochondria is what matters most, not the specific exercise you're doing.
The signal is the key. Okay, let's shift gears a bit into some more advanced strategies. Peptides.
Right. These are small signaling molecules that are getting a lot of attention for being able to create very targeted healing responses.
And the sources highlighted two in particular. The first one was BPC-157.
Yeah, BPC-157 has shown a lot of promise, especially for healing things that are normally very slow to heal, like tendons in the gut lining.
What's the evidence for that?
Well, a lot of it is robust animal studies. The sources mentioned research showing it significantly sped up Achilles tendon healing in rats. For anyone who's had a tendon injury, you know how incredibly slow that process is. This suggests a really profound regenerative ability.
And the second one was Epidolon, which was linked to longevity.
That's right. There was a 10-year Russian study that was mentioned. Epidolon is thought to work on the pineal gland and helps with telomere maintenance.
The little caps on our DNA?
Exactly. And that long-term study suggested that the participants who used it had increased lifespans and fewer chronic illnesses. Now, these are complex things, but the data is pretty compelling.
Okay, now we have to talk about what might be the single most critical, actionable piece of advice in this whole deep dive, the aggressive management of ApoB.
This is non-negotiable for anyone serious about longevity. The core tip is that you must treat high ApoB levels aggressively because it is causally linked to atherosclerosis plaque in your arteries. And this is true even if every other one of your metabolic markers looks perfect.
So let's define this clearly. Most people hear about LDL or bad cholesterol. Why is ApoB a better number to track?
Okay, so think of it this way. LDL cholesterol, or LDLC, measures the weight of the cholesterol inside the lipoprotein particles that carry it around. ApoB, on the other hand, measures the actual number of those particles.
So it's particles versus payload?
Perfect analogy. And it's the particle itself, the ApoB-containing lipoprotein, that can crash into your artery wall and start the process of building plaque. So the number of particles is what drives the risk, not how much cholesterol each one is carrying.
But what about the calcium score? The CAC scan? If that comes back as 0, doesn't that mean you're in the clear?
And this is Dr. Peter Attia's most urgent warning. Relying only on a 0 CAC score is incredibly dangerous. He said it has a 15% false negative rate.
15%, that's really high.
It's terrifyingly high. It means he has seen patients with a CAC score of 0 who, when he did more advanced imaging like a CTA scan, actually had significant amounts of soft, unstable plaque.
And soft plaque is the really dangerous kind.
It's the silent killer. It's the kind that ruptures and causes a sudden catastrophic heart attack or stroke. Hard, calcified plaque is stable. Soft plaque is the problem.
So because ApoB predicts the formation of all plaque, hard and soft, getting that number as low as possible is the best defense.
It's the only defense that makes sense. ApoB is your leading indicator of risk. A CAC score is a lagging indicator. You have to act on the leading indicator.
Okay, that is crystal clear and incredibly important. Now let's move into some more targeted areas, starting with women's health.
Right, and for women who are navigating perimenopause and menopause, there are some really specific things to be aware of. The first is about hormonal support, but in a very localized way.
The tip was using vaginal estrogen, not just for dryness, but for preventing UTIs. How does that work?
It's actually a very direct mechanism. Estrogen is critical for keeping the tissues in the urinary tract healthy and maintaining the right pH. When estrogen drops, that tissue gets weaker and the pH changes, making it a great environment for bad bacteria to grow.
So the local estrogen basically restores the tissue's natural defenses.
Exactly. And Dr. Rina Malik also pointed to another incredibly simple but powerful intervention to go along with it. Hydration.
And the numbers on this were just wild.
They really were. She cited data showing that just adding 1.5 liters of fluid a day, that's about 6 extra glasses of water, reduced the risk of recurrent UTIs by 46%.
Almost half.
Almost half. So you combine that with the local estrogen, and you have this powerhouse strategy for what can be a really miserable chronic issue.
But for a topic with a very dramatic name, Dr. Mindy Pelz called it the menopausal toxic dump.
It sounds dramatic, but it describes a very real physiological event. The core tip here is that women in perimenopause need to be actively thinking about detoxing heavy metals
And why then specifically?
because of bone loss. The drop in estrogen accelerates bone loss during this period, and our skeletons are where our bodies store decades of accumulated toxins, especially heavy metals like lead. When you start losing bone mass, those stored toxins get released back into your bloodstream.
A lifetime of accumulation getting dumped into your system all at once.
Exactly, and it can cause all sorts of confusing symptoms. Dr. Pelz shared her own story.
The brain fog.
The severe brain fog and memory loss that hit her around age 43. She thought it was just aging, but she got tested and her lead levels were through the roof, mobilized from her bones. Once she focused on detoxing the lead, her cognitive function came right back.
That is a critical lesson. Unexplained cognitive decline in perimenopause.
Yeah.
You need to look for heavy metals.
It has to be on the list of possibilities.
And that idea of toxins leads us to broaden the search, right? Beyond our own bodies and into our environment. The first tip is always to check your home for mold if you have unexplained symptoms.
Right. Mold is a huge one. It's a potent biotoxin and you have to rule it out.
Yeah.
But the danger is stopping there.
Because the symptoms can mimic so many other things.
And this brings us to that incredible patient story from Dr. Pejman Kadirai. This family with severe chronic health problems.
Right, and they were convinced it was mold.
Totally convinced. They lived near a farm, but all their focus was on what might be inside their house. When they finally did comprehensive testing of both the family and the environment,
It wasn't mold at all.
it was glyphosate. It was chronic exposure to glyphosate, the herbicide, blowing over from the nearby farm. If they had just done a mold test and stopped, they would have never found the real root cause.
It's such a powerful reminder that you have to cast a really wide net when it comes to environmental toxins.
You do. Because the symptoms are so frustratingly non-specific, you had to be a detective.
A detective, for sure. Okay, we've covered the body, the environment. Now we make the big pivot to the mind. And some of these emotional and identity shifts, they seem abstract, but the results the sources talk about are incredibly concrete.
Yeah, we're starting with a really ancient Hawaiian practice called Ho'oponopono. It's presented as this simple, fast way to heal emotional trauma and even physical pain.
And the technique is just repeating that specific phrase, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you, while looking at yourself in a mirror.
That act of radical self-forgiveness and self-love seems to be the key. And Jim Curtis shared this personal story about how quickly it can work. He had this severe dental implant pain, a 7 out of 10.
And it had been going on for a month.
For a whole month. Nothing was helping. He did this Ho'oponopono practice for just 30 minutes.
Then the pain went away.
It completely disappeared. The theory is that this kind of practice can calm the nervous system so profoundly that it dials down the stress and inflammation that are often at the root of chronic unexplained pain. The emotional release created a physical change.
That's incredible. Okay, so moving from that to identity, this seems to be the key for making changes like weight loss actually stick around.
It's the absolute key. The core tip is that you have to fundamentally change how you see yourself. You have to stop saying, I'm trying to lose weight, and start believing, I am a lean, active person.
So why is that shift from trying to being so powerful? Why isn't willpower enough?
Because willpower is a finite resource. It runs out. Dr. Holly Wyatt from the National Weight Control Registry.
The registry that tracks people who successfully keep weight off?
Yes. She found that those people don't rely on constant willpower. They rely on designing their environment for success and, crucially, making that internal identity shift. When your actions line up with who you believe you are, they become automatic. You don't have to force yourself to go to the gym if you just are an active person.
The behavior just flows from the identity. And that same idea applies to learning, too. Dr. John DeMartini's work on linking learning to core values.
It's the same principle. His idea is that to learn anything quickly and deeply, you have to connect it to something you already value intensely. If your brain sees it as boring or irrelevant, it's a struggle. If it connects to a passion, your brain just soaks it up.
And the story of the boy who's labeled with ADHD is the perfect illustration.
Perfect. This kid was failing in school, labeled a problem.
Right.
But he was obsessed with cars. That was his highest value. So when his teachers reframed his school subjects in the context of cars.
Like the physics of an engine or the history of manufacturing.
Exactly. His ADHD vanished. He became a star student. It wasn't an attention deficit. It was a values and relevance deficit.
Wow. Okay, let's talk about performance. specifically reframing anxiety. We usually think of it as this terrible thing we have to get rid of before a big presentation or event.
Right. And the sources offer this amazing cognitive trick. You reframe it, you take all those physical symptoms, the fast heart rate, the butterflies in your stomach, and instead of labeling them fear, you label them excitement or spidey senses coming online.
You're telling your brain a different story about the same physical feelings, and Chris Hemsworth, the actor, he used this.
He did. He used it to overcome crippling performance anxiety. Instead of feeling his heart pound and thinking, oh no, I'm going to fail, he started thinking, okay, good, my body's getting ready, it's activating. This is making me sharper.
It turns a liability into an asset.
A high-octane asset. You're just changing the interpretation. The feeling is neutral. And finally, on this bigger picture of purpose, Rutger Bregman's challenge to the whole follow your passion mantra.
Right. He talked about moral ambition.
Yeah, the idea that maybe deeper fulfillment comes not from just doing what you love, but from working on big, important, and often neglected global problems.
And his example of the British abolitionists was so powerful because it was so pragmatic.
It's a masterclass in effective strategy. The abolitionists had a huge moral goal, and the slave trade. But they knew that just yelling about morality wasn't enough to create political change.
So they changed their argument.
They changed their argument completely.
Mhm.
They focused on something that would appeal to the self-interest of the people in power. The shockingly high death rate of the white British sailors on the slave ships.
They made it about the health and safety of their own people.
Exactly. And that pragmatic, self-interested argument is what allowed them to build the coalition they needed to finally succeed. It's a lesson that achieving big moral goals often requires more than just moral outrage. It requires strategy.
Wow, that's a powerful lesson. Okay, we're on the home stretch. The final piece of the vitality puzzle, sleep and cortisol control.
The foundation of recovery. If you don't get this right, all the other work can be undermined. And we have some really practical, sometimes counterintuitive tips here.
Let's start with temperature. The main driver for falling asleep is a drop in your core body temperature. But the tip is to warm your feet. That seems backward.
It seems totally backward, but it works because of a physiological reflex. Dr. Michael Breus pointed out this is backed by 3 different studies. When you warm your hands and feet, say, by wearing socks to bed, it causes the blood vessels in those areas to dilate.
To open up.
Right, and that allows all this warm blood to rush to the surface of your skin where the heat can dissipate really efficiently. So by warming your feet, you actually trigger a rapid cooling of your body's core.
It's a little biological trick to kickstart the sleep process. I like that. What about posture? I never think about my posture when I'm asleep.
But Dave Asprey made the point that your nervous system does. If you're in a bad posture, your nervous system is subtly fighting gravity all night long, even when you're unconscious.
And that disrupts your sleep.
It causes these tiny micro-awakenings that you don't even remember, but they pull you out of deep restorative sleep. So the tip is to optimize your posture. Sleep on your side with a pillow between your knees or on your back with your legs slightly elevated to keep your spine aligned.
You're just taking that last little bit of stress off the system so it can fully relax.
That's the goal. Maximum relaxation, maximum restoration.
Okay, now for the physical signs of stress. The discussion on hair graying was mind-blowing. The idea that it's reversible.
We now have definitive proof. That study from Dr. Martin Picard's lab is it's a perfect case study.
So they analyzed one single strand of hair. What did it show them?
The strand had this amazing pattern. It was dark at the tip, then it had a white section in the middle, and then it was dark again at the root.
Like a timeline.
Exactly. And they were able to map that white segment precisely to a 2-month period of intense stress in the person's life, a bad breakup and a move. And when the stress went away, the pigment came back. The hair started growing dark again.
That is just incredible. It's visible proof that stress does physical damage, and removing the stress can reverse that damage.
It proves that stress-induced graying isn't a one-way street. It's a dynamic process. And that brings us to the last point.
Yeah.
Controlling our stress hormone, cortisol, by controlling our environment.
And this isn't about meditation. This is about cleaning your kitchen.
It is. Dr. Mindy Pelz shared that during menopause, she became incredibly sensitive to her environment. And she realized that waking up and walking into a messy kitchen, dishes piled up, clutter everywhere, it caused an immediate physical cortisol spike.
Her body registered the mess as a threat or as work to be done.
It was an instant stress response. And it was so predictable and so detrimental to her health that she had to have a serious talk with her family to make sure the kitchen was clean every night before bed. It's a great lesson.
Mhm.
Find your environmental stress triggers and eliminate them.
It's one of the simplest, most direct ways to manage your daily stress load.
Sure.
What a journey. I mean, we've gone from the very bottom, targeting a specific gut bacteria with apple cider vinegar and avoiding those hateful 8 oils, all the way up to these huge ideas like shifting your entire identity to make health last.
And we found some really critical, I think, counterintuitive takeaways. For me, 2 stand out. First, that idea that for strength training, just 1 or 2 focus sessions a week might be better than 5 or 6 because it's all about maximizing that adaptation phase.
Less can be more.
And second, that urgent warning about ApoB. That a 0 calcium score is not a get-out-of-jail-free card. It has a 15% false negative rate for that dangerous soft plaque. ApoB's the number you have to know and manage.
These aren't just tips, are they? They're really specific knowledge points to maximize your vitality, backed by some serious clinical context.
They really are. It's about being strategic.
Absolutely. We started this whole deep dive talking about Dr. Peter Attia's idea of the centenarian decathlon, training today for the things you want to be able to do when you're 90. So, as a final thought for you to take away from this, take a minute right now and define one specific physical feat you want to be capable of at age 90. Maybe it's just being able to carry your own suitcase through an airport. Maybe it's picking up a great-grandchild. Whatever it is.
Define it.
Define it. And then think about what level of strength or aerobic fitness that requires of you today to make it a reality. That decision, that calculation, that is the ultimate backcast for a long and vital life. It's the most powerful input you can make starting right now.